paano mag-analyze ng conic sections gamit ang kanilang mga general equations, pag-usapan natin to. So from these conic sections, makikita natin yung mga general equations ng ating conics at hindi natin masasabi kung ito ay parabola, hyperbola, circle, or ellipse. So sa paggamit ng standard equation, makikita natin yung forma ng ating mga conic sections gamit ang kanilang mga standard equations tulad nito. From the general equations, makakakita tayo ng pattern na kung saan pwede tayong manghula kung ano yung magiging forma ng ating mga conic sections base sa general equations. And through observations, mapapansin natin sa number 1 na isa lang yung variable natin na merong square. So in this case, pwede siyang maging parabola. So this one, ang ating hula, parabola, yung ating first equation. At yung second equation natin, it could either be a circle, ellipse, or hyperbola, at mapapansin natin na addition yung naghihiwalay sa ating x squared and y squared. So pwede siyang maging ellipse or circle, pero hindi natin yan mapapansin kung hindi natin gagamitan to ng mathematics. So for now, let's say since parehas sila ng coefficients, ito ay circle, at yung number 3 naman, we have y squared and 2x squared. So mapapansin natin yung isa merong coefficient at yung isang quadratic equation ay walang coefficient. So since addition yung naghihiwalay dun sa ating mga squares, pwede nating hulaan na ito ay pwedeng maging ellipse. At sa number 4 naman, mapapansin natin yung ating mga quadratics, which is x squared and y squared, ay hinihiwalay ng subtraction. So in this case, yung pattern na pwede natin gamitin would be a hyperbola. Now, to verify kung tama yung mga hula natin, pwede natin gamitan to ng algebra or ng technology. At yan yung dalawang processes na ipapakita natin dito sa lesson natin ngayon. Unahin natin ng technology at gagamitin natin ang Desmos to check kung ano ang magiging forma ng ating mga conic sections gamit na kanilang mga general equations by plugging it in to our computer. So for problem number 1, we have y squared plus 8y plus 4x minus 3 is equal to 0. So by plugging in our equation to Desmos, mapapansin natin na tama yung hula natin at ito nga ay isang parabola and it's opening sideways dahil ang ating square ay nasa y. Pero kung ang ating square ay nasa x, ito ay magiging parabola that is opening vertically, either upward or downward. Now, let's plug in the second equation. We have x squared plus y squared plus 2x minus 8y minus 3. At ang hula natin ay ito ay magiging circle because our coefficients ng ating x squared at y squared ay identical, which is 1. So ang hula natin ay ito ay isang circle. By looking at our graph, we are seeing that it is indeed a circle. At gamit ang powerful tool na ito, makikita natin at mabibigyan natin ng mas masusing pag-aaral kung ano ang magiging shapes ng ating mga conic section. For our third equation, we have y squared plus 2x squared plus 6y plus 8x minus 1 is equal to 0. At ang hula natin kanina, ito ay ellipse. And using Desmos, mapapansin natin na nagkakaroon na ng forma yung ating equation at mapapansin nyo na parang mali yung ating hula. At ito ay dahil nalimutan natin lagyan ng square yung ating 2x at mapapansin natin na kapag ang parehas na variable x and y ay quadratic function, ito ay either circle, hyperbola, or an ellipse. And in this case, tama yung hula natin at ito nga ay isang ellipse using technology. At dun sa huli nating example, we have x squared minus y squared plus 4x plus 10y minus 5 is equal to 0. Ang hula naman natin ay ito ay isang hyperbola dahil kinukuha natin yung difference ng x squared and y squared, and looking at our equation, it is indeed a hyperbola. At mapapansin ninyo na yung ating hyperbola ay opening upward and downwards, at ito ay dahil yung positive coefficient natin ay with the x-axis or with the x squared. At ganito ka-powerful ang technology, and using Desmos, we're able to identify the shapes or the particular conic sections we're working on given its general form. Now, paano naman natin mako-convert yung ating mga general equation to its standard form without using technology? In this case, gagamitan na natin siya ng ating algebra to be able to figure out and verify yung tamang conic sections sa bawat general form na nakikita natin. Let's start with the first one. We have y squared plus 8y minus 4x plus 4 is equal to 0. Igugrupo lang natin yung mga y at yung mga x. At mapapansin natin na ang quadratic equation natin ay nasa y lang. So, ang ating equation would be, and from here, gagamitan natin ng completing the square by taking half of 8 and then squaring it para makuha natin yung perfect square trinomial ng ating equation. And 16, yung ating constant to create a perfect square trinomial from y squared plus 8y. And by simplifying this, we have y plus 4 times y plus 4 is equal to 4x plus 12. And by factoring out our 4x plus 12 and simplifying our squares of binomial, at ito ngayon yung ating standard form ng ating conic sections, which is indeed a parabola. Now let's have our second conics, which is x squared plus y squared plus 2x minus 8y minus 3. At mapapansin natin na yung ating quadratics is with x at with y. So magkakaroon tayo ng different technique on how to use the completing the square method to write the standard equation of our conic section. So igugrupo natin yung ating mga x's at yung ating mga y at yung constant natin ay dadalhin natin sa kabilang side ng ating equation. And from here, pwede tayong gumamit ng completing the square technique for x at for y. Kunin natin yung half ng middle term and then square it para ma-complete natin at ma-produce yung ating PST or perfect square trinomials. So from here, yung mga numbers natin sa ating box would be the constant 1 and 16 to balance our equation. And by simplifying our functions, we have, and by simplifying this further, let's divide our equation by our constant. At since yung denominator natin sa x and y variable ay identical, ito ay isang circle. At ito yung graph ng circle na nakita natin sa Desmos kanina. Now, let's have the third general equation, which is y squared plus 2x squared plus 6y plus 8x minus 1 is equal to 0. Using the same technique, let's find the standard equation of this conic section. Mapapansin nyo na yung ating y group, yung ating quadratic ay may coefficient na 1 at yung ating x group, yung kanyang quadratic coefficient ay 2. So let's factor it out para yung ating leading coefficient would also be 1. And now we're ready to complete the square. And by simplifying our function, we now have our perfect square trinomials. At ito yung magkukomplete sa ating square. So sa constant natin, we have 9 and 4. Pero mapapansin natin, doon sa ating x group, meron tayong coefficient of 2 na inilabas kanina. So we need to include that in our constant. And by simplifying our perfect square trinomials, we need to get rid of the square with x. So yun yung error natin kanina. So we rectify our error. And now we have y plus 3 squared plus 2 quantity x plus 2 squared is equal to 18. And by dividing both sides by 18 and simplifying our fraction, we'll notice na yung denominator ng ating x and y group will be different. At since yung ating fractions may magkaibang denominator, this will be an example of a conic section that is an ellipse. And it's an ellipse dahil yung ating x and y group ay separated by addition. At ito yung ating graph ng ating ellipse at mapapansin nyo na ito ay long ellipse dahil yung ating y variable ay o yung denominator ng ating y variable ay mas malaki kaysa sa denominator ng ating x variable. And for the last equation, we'll have x squared minus y squared minus 4x plus 10y minus 5 is equal to 0. At ang alam natin ay ito ay isang hyperbola dahil meron tayong difference ng ating x squared at ng y squared. So let's write the standard form of this general equation by completing the square. By separating our group, we have negative y squared plus 10y at since ang ating leading coefficient ay hindi positive, let's factor out the negative sign or negative 1 para magkakaroon tayo ng PST which is, and now we're ready to complete the square. And by rewriting our equation and adding our new constants sa ating right-hand side, yung ating first box would be 4, at yung ating second box would be 25. But remember that we factored out the negative sign from our previous step, so we need to put that in in our equation. So our new perfect square trinomials would be n9 minus 25 is equal to negative 16, and by dividing both sides by negative 16, we will achieve the standard equation of our conic section. So by simplifying our standard equation, we'll have, at mapapansin nyo, yung ating x group ay negative at yung ating y group ay positive. So this is an example of a hyperbola dahil magkaiba yung signs ng ating x squared at y squared. And to simplify this further, we'll have y minus 5 squared over 16 minus x minus 9 squared over 16 is equal to 1, which is a hyperbola. Sa pag-convert ng ating mga conic sections from general to standard form, we can use technology or our algebra skill, specifically completing the square technique to be able to properly identify our conic sections using its standard form. This is Dr. E, and see you again next time.